if you reached out to data support. Zach is by far the expert. He's been with this project from the beginning, helping to develop the system. So he's been through it all and knows the ins and outs of the system. So don't be shy. This is your opportunity to ask him your questions directly. And I'm sure others will also benefit from your questions as well. There's two ways that you can ask your question. You can either enter your question in the chat box, which is located near the right bottom of your screen. You can also click on the hand button at the top of the center of the screen, and Kelly, who's also your other TA support person, can unmute you to ask your question live. I also would like to note that below the chat box are some helpful links that you may be interested in. The first link will bring you to the user guide for the website, as well as other forms such as the section data tracker and the fidelity process forms that will help you collect your data. The second link is the video tutorials, which currently features 2 videos on how to enter your section data. And then lastly, this transcript of the office hours will be available on max.gov website. So please do give us a week or so after today so we can get those prepared for online viewing. Okay, so now I am going to hand it over to Zach.
Zach, you're muted, maybe. If you're speaking, we can't hear you.
How about now?
Yep, we gotcha. Thanks.
Okay, I apologize for that. Hello again and welcome everyone to the office hours for the OPA, OAHPMdata.net website. We'll be reviewing how to use the website, all the different data entry features. And if you have questions as we go, please feel free to type them into the chat box. As well, we'll have open office hours at the end after we move through each of the items as we go. So I'm going to go ahead and log in and use my multi-factor authentication code to get to the home page. Once we arrive on the home page, you'll see that we are on actually a test version of the website. So there is no live data here. There are fake grantees and organizations. And I'll be walking you through the data entry process. On the home page is where we occasionally post announcements regarding the data collection, such as due dates, and if you have any other any other announcements that may be pertinent to data collection. Sometimes it does take a moment for the text to arrive occasionally. So we'll just go ahead and try logging in one more time. There we go. Sorry for the delay there. Again, if you do have any particular questions that you did come in with, you can go ahead and type those into the chat about grantee data submission, section data submission, about using the website. If you have questions about how to request a new user account or get increased permissions, we'll be covering all of those as we go. Okay, so here we are on the home screen of the website. And to begin our data entry process, we'll head to the Grantees link in the navigation bar. Here on the Manage Grantees page, you'll see all of the grantees that your user account is associated with, if you do have more than one. And you'll see several buttons here in order to edit the information about the grantee and to get set up your organizations and program models so you can then enter your section data. So we'll take a look briefly at the links. Under Edit is where you'll be able to update the primary contact for your grantee. So if we find an issue with the data or something goes on with your account on the website, we can always contact the grantee contact for more information. We also have the Program Models button. This is where you will select the program models that your grantee is implementing. So for example, here you can see we can add this new program model to the list of program models that our grantee is implementing. Next, we'll take a look at the Organizations button. Here is where you will create and assign users to organizations. If your grantee is the one implementing your programming, then you'll still need to create an implementing organization line for that here. You'll add the organization and then go to the program models and select which program models this organization is implementing, since it may not be every program model that your grantee has selected. Next, and a very important step when creating organizations is that you must assign users to that organization so we know who should be entering the section level data for this organization. So if we click the Users button, we'll see that there are no current users for this organization, and we can easily add ourselves as a data entry person for this organization. That will allow us to enter section level data for this new example organization we've created. You can add a new user to enter section level data to an organization. If they already have an account on the website and you use that same email, their account will be linked to this organization and they will be able to enter the section level data. If they do not already have an account will be created for them and they will receive an email so that they can log in and set their password, and they will be able to enter section level data for this organization. They will not have permissions to enter or edit any of the grantee level information for this grantee if their user is created in this way, but you can always email the support team at OAHPM Data Support at OAHPMdata.net if you need a new user account or permissions increased for a section level user who needs to also enter grantee level data. Finally, as far as the grantee level items go, we'll look at what the grantee data entry form looks like. Here at the top of the data entry form, we can see we select our reporting period. You'll want to make sure you are selected the correct reporting period for the data that you're entering. Closed reporting periods will be uneditable. So if you find yourself unable to edit a data set, check the reporting period. And if you do need to make edits to a locked reporting period, you can contact the support team and notify your project officer so we can work out how best to get that updated. Before we move on, does anyone have any questions about the grantee level data, creating an organization, or adding users to an organization so they can enter the section level data, which we'll take a look at in just a moment? All right. Well, we will go ahead and
Zach,
continue.
it looks like we have one question coming in the chat. So guys, if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question, you sure can. Or if you want to utilize the chat, that's certainly fine too. Either way works for us. Emmy, we were waiting for your question. Did you have one, or were you just putting your cursor in the chat?
We will go ahead and keep a lookout if that question does pop up, and I'll try and keep an eye out for that and get that answered. But we'll go ahead and continue to move forward then if there are no other questions currently. And again, we can answer all the questions at the end. All right. So next up is going to be entering the section level data tied to your organizations. So we're going to click the organizations link in the navigation bar, which will take us to our implementing organizations page. Here, if you're associated with more than one grantee, you'll be able to select which grantee, and then you'll see the list of organizations that you are a user for. If you select your grantee and you see your organization list is missing an organization, it is likely because you haven't created that organization or added yourself as a user to that organization. You must add yourself as that user in order to see the organization here and enter the section level data. We're going to go ahead and take a quick look at supportive services entry. So again, this is reported on a 6-month period. You'll make sure that the reporting period is correct for the data you want to be reporting, and then simply enter, the number of referrals made to each of the particular services, if any. Next, we'll take a look at entering section level data. So we'll click on the sections button for that organization, select the reporting period and the program model that we are going to be creating the section for. As you can see, for the program model education station, there are no current sections to display, as well for skill tips because we just added that. However, for our Teen Talk program model, we do have 2 sections that have data entered in here. If we wanted to create a section, we'd go ahead and click Add Section, and we can just call this Example 1 for now. We'll select a state, some example data here, and save. And as we can see, our new section has been created. Now, in order to enter the data, we'll click on Edit Section Data button. And you'll see here we have our Submit Section Data page and tabs with which to submit our section data. For the Reach tab, a few things to note would be the total youth reach. So let's say we enter 100 youth attended this particular implementation of a program. As we fill out our related demographics for those youths, we'll want to make sure that they line up with our total youth reach at our total box in the bottom. That's for the gender, the race, ethnicity, age, and grade areas. They will all need to add up to the total youth reach. For programs serving non-youths or caregivers, youth-serving professionals as the targets of the implementation, you'll mark those participants here in the first 2, and they will add to the total participants for the actual section itself. And below that is where the caregivers and youth-serving professionals who had some kind of peripheral benefit or participated in the supplemental activities will be noted. These ones do not add to the total participants for the section, but are noted as supplemental activity participants. For dosage, you report the average dosage as well as the number of participants in the section that got at least 75% of the program. And on the last tab, for fidelity and quality, you'll note the number of sessions that were planned, completed, observed, as well as for any observed sessions, the average observed adherence based on the program, and the observer reported quality, which is based on the observer quality sheet. If you do happen to miss any required fields or there's something wrong with the demographic totals, you will see when you go to submit and save that, all of the errors will appear to you in the top of the screen and also be noted on the items where there is an issue. So again, since we didn't complete filling out the demographics, it knows the totals don't match. That mostly covers the section level data and each of the items there. So we'll take a moment to pause and ask if anyone has any questions about the section level data. It will not save your work that you've entered until you have cleared all of the errors. So you'll want to enter your section level data when it is complete and ready to enter. We'll take a look at the resources next. And that's where we'll find some of the forms that we'll use, like the observation form for scoring, the fidelity form for grantee directors to fill out, and things like the user guide.
Okay, Zach, is this a good point to ask a question?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, so Emmy has something in the chat here. I'm just going to read it because it's a little small, maybe hard to see for some. We are implementing the Wyman Top EBP, which is a 9-month implementation. I'm looking for guidance on how we should enter data for this reporting period. We have groups running, but they will not be completed until December.
Thank you. I believe the answer here is that for when it comes to reporting section level data and reporting the section should be complete. So you're going to be reporting it in the reporting period in which it completes. That way you have the full data set, because the data that you report to us is the total attendance for the entirety, and the complete number of sessions planned and actually completed. So you won't be reporting on any ongoing sections, only once they are complete.
Great, thank you. Emmy, let us know if you need more clarification there.
Mm-hmm. All right. We'll take a look at the resources section. So when you go to the resources section, you will see a folder that you can select. It will have the resources relevant for your cohort, but those include things like the user guide, the program quality observation form, and the fidelity process form, as well as the section data tracker. The section data tracker is our tool that we have created to help you keep an attendance list for each of your sections. It will average the attendance and different numbers for you so that they're kind of easier to enter if you so choose to use this tool. If you are gathering your participation, attendance data, and observation data in other ways for a section, as long as you understand the which averages that you need to enter, you can use any tool that you would like to gather and calculate that data, and then go ahead and submit it to the website. Finally, available on the website are going to be a few video tutorials. So when you go to the tutorials link in the navigation bar, you can select from the folders that are available. Again, this is the test website. It does not have all of the tutorials on it, but I believe for section data on the live website, you will see 2 videos. One talks about how to be prepared for data entry, which discusses the grantee level data, setting up organizations, assigning program models, and users to organizations so they can enter section data. And then the second video is how to enter and save section data, which walks through the section data, creating the section, entering the section level data, each of the items there, and then clearing errors and saving. If you ever do have any questions about any of the processes, I find the user guide is one of the most helpful ones. It's very easy to get to the thing that you need specifically, and there's a walkthrough with screenshots that will directly show you each of the steps and give you any of the definitions of particular items if you need those. But you can always feel free to contact the support team and we will promptly reply with whatever response that we can in terms of if you need to create new users, or even if you have questions about your data, you need to fix a piece of data, or reporting questions about when to report, or if you have a different case because of the program that you're running, how you should work that into the reporting constraints that we currently have. That is all for the scheduled walkthrough of the website and the data entry process. We'll have the open office hours now for any particular questions that anyone may have about the OAHPM data for the performance measures, data entry, or anything along those lines.
Thanks, Zach. And just a reminder to everyone, if you have any questions, that's what we're here for. This is the time. Go ahead and just pop those into the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and go ahead and just ask us verbally, that's fine as well. And also, if you don't have any questions, you can feel free to drop off, or you can hang around and see if anyone asks something that that might also help you. But if you feel that you got what you needed, feel free to drop off. This concludes the walkthrough section of the office hours. All right. We have a couple questions popping up in the box. So the first one from Mallory. Would providing a health services resource guide for the community count as a referral to report under supportive services?
Let's see. Let me process that for one moment. Would providing a health service guide referral to supportive? I believe this may be something that we could refer to a project officer or someone at OPA. Oh, it appears we might be getting a response. Wonderful. As that first question is not one I have the specific answer to.
Hi, Zach. It's Tara Rice from OPA. I just typed a response in here that providing a resource, a print resource, is usually not something that we consider to be a referral. A referral is usually more like referring someone directly to a service agency. It's more formalized, but I would definitely say talk to your project officer, just like Zach said, to make sure that you're being consistent.
Thank you very much. It looks like we have 2 more questions buried in this chat here. So I'll take number 2. Could interviews/focus groups within implementing agencies with adults and teens about health services in their community be counted as stakeholder engagement numbers under grantee data? That I would also say probably refer to your project officer, although this one I am guessing would be more of a yes than a probably not. It looks like Tara will provide a response in the chat as well for us again. Yes, great, wonderful. Thank you very much. So that seems about right. And then the third question is, would implementing agencies sharing information about the project with the community be considered stakeholder engagement? I do believe there is a dissemination item under grantees. We can take a look at that, but I believe it may fall under there. And Tara will also provide us an answer in the chat as well. But we have stakeholder engagement as well as community members. We also have dissemination, which includes publications and presentations at the local level. It may be covered under raising awareness as well, or information communication.
Yeah. Zach, I was gonna say the one about raising awareness, that what that description sounds like. It sounds like it would best go under the number of times that an approach was used to raise awareness. But if it's a straightforward presentation as opposed to something that's online, I wasn't really clear. I need to scan back up to see if they were talking about something that was social media, or was it like a presentation.
Mallory, if you wanted to specify for your question number 3, what specifically sharing information looks like, more of a presentation. Okay.
We do have I would put under the local.
Excellent. Yeah, and we can see the definitions for the stakeholder engagement item right here on the page if we needed to look at them more closely. There are some specific criteria here as to like what constitutes the stakeholder versus what maybe constitutes those other categories under dissemination. Wonderful. I'm glad we're getting to answer some meaty questions today about the program, and that the technical stuff all seems to be going smoothly. But if you do have any more questions, we'll continue to be available. And if you have no more questions, again, you can feel free to hang out and see if there are any more helpful ones, or if you have other pressing needs. We have no other planned items. While we're waiting for more questions to come in, we can take a look at some of the resources, specifically the section data tracker. We can go ahead and download the file here. I'll just save this onto my desktop real quick, and we'll open it up. Let's see, can we make this bigger? No. Make this bigger so everyone can see it a bit easier. All right. So here, oh, I apologize. These are probably incorrectly labeled because we are on the test site. We're currently looking at the Fidelity Process Report form. This one specifically for the FY 2019 cohort, but there's one for the 2020, and they're all labeled. And when you go to your resource folder on the live website, you will be directed to the correct one. This is the one that you will enter along with your grantee level data. You'll get a score. I believe it's from 0 to 26, although it may be different depending on the cohort, depending on which item you respond to. So let me go ahead and pull up the section data tracker here. Here we go. So the first page of the section data tracker has several directions and instructions for using it, and kind of gives you some more information about it, defines some of the tabs below. On the attendance tab, you'll see that this is basically just an attendance sheet where you can go ahead and track participants by ID. Because you will never be submitting this to us. This is going to keep living as a local file in your files. You can go ahead and use any type of participant ID you like to use this attendance list. You'll select if they're a youth participant or a caregiver or youth serving professional, as well as what gender, race, ethnicity, age, and grade, all the demographic information. On the right-hand side is where you can mark attendance per session, and this will automatically calculate their average attendance. You'll do this one of these Excel spreadsheets for each section that you do. It's like an attendance list for that particular class. If you have, let's say, 8 sessions, you'll record all 8 sessions here with each of your participants. The next tab is going to be the supplemental activities tab. So this is, again, for those caregivers or youth serving professionals who are supplemental activity participants, but not the main targets of the implemented program. And finally, we have the observations tab for data entry, where you'll write the observation date, the session number as it corresponds on our attendance sheet for your tracking, and then finally the overall quality score from the observation form. You'll enter the number of activities planned and the number of activities completed based on what was supposed to happen for that particular session, and that will give you your session adherence. And all of those data from those first 3 tabs will get calculated into the reporting tabs. So here we have the reach reporting tab, and you'll see we have some errors because we don't have the correct data in here. We haven't completed our data entry on the attendance tab. But when you do, you will see all of these numbers laid out in the order that they appear on the website to make your data entry a little bit easier in terms of how you're entering it all in there. Again, next we'll have the dosage tab that will give you your average attendance and the number of participants that got 75% of the program based on the number of sessions that they attended. And finally, we have the reporting data for fidelity. So how many sessions did you observe based on the observations that you entered and the average scores that we got for observation adherence and quality. This tool, again, is completely optional. You don't need to use this if you have a different system for keeping track of attendance for your programs. This is simply one format that we provide as an attendance list to do some of those averages for you if you wish to use it. Speaking of the program quality observation form, we can take a look at that as well. So here you'll see that we have the observation form for TPP grantee programs. For each of the items, you'll go through and score in particular based on the scale that's provided, as well as the details below that give you a feeling of what that score should equate to in kind of layman's terms. And then finally, at the end, the very bottom, we will have the item number 7 is the overall quality of the program session that takes into account all items 1 through 6, sort of an average of that score, if you will, but taking those into account as well as the factors below in what an excellent session looks like and what poor sessions look like to come out with a final overall quality score for that observed session. This is the number that you'll report into the observations tab for overall quality, question 7. So let's say we had a 5 for one of our observations. And when you enter all your observations in, on the reporting tab, it will average your scores for each observed session to give you a final quality score for the sessions that were observed. All right, I can go ahead and Since I don't see any more questions popping up in the bar, but we still have some people hanging around, I can just show you through the user guide so you can see how to use that. If you ever have a new colleague, then now you'll be able to show them the user guide. If they need some, you don't want to walk them personally through, you can just point them to some of the sections in the user guide so they can read up on the data entry process. If we take a look, you can see it's kind of split up by instructions for grantee level users who will be entering grantee level data, creating organizations, and assigning users to those organizations. And then for implementing organization users who will be entering section level data and supportive services referrals data. Taking a look, we'll go ahead and skip down to this section 4. The other sections are about how to interact with the website. If you need to do something with your profile, such as update your password manually or change your multi-factor authentication from one telephone number to another telephone number, those features are all available and explained in the user guide as well. Under our section 4 here, which is instructions for grantee users, you can see it'll walk you through how those buttons in order, for example, the initial setup process of making sure your primary grantee is identified and correct, creating your implementing organizations, assigning those program models, and making sure you assign users to those organizations so they can enter that data. Each section here will walk you through what it's titled, as well as some tips on the side for maybe common issues that people may run into, such as if you're trying to say, we don't use this program model anymore, I would like to delete it, you might get an error where the website says, because you have used this program model in the past, we're going to keep it associated with your grantee because record keeping and making sure that it is associated with the section data that you submitted under that program model. Another tip to point out here is that grantees that are implementing the programming directly will still need to add their grantee as an implementing organization on that organization's list. Here it suggests that you can enter the same name as your grantee with a little note that says self as implementing organization, but you can indicate it whatever feels most correct to you in the way that you name it. And finally, if you do end up creating a new user because you want someone to enter section level data, but they don't already have an account, it's advised that you let them know, hey, I just went and added you as a user to this organization, which should have created an account for you. They should be receiving an email from the website that lets them reset their password. However, sometimes spam blockers may take that email from a website and hide it away from them. So it's always a good idea to let them know to expect that email is coming. And if they do not see it, to check their spam or junk folder. If you ever have issues as a new user or issues with your password, if you have a password or new user reset email, the links in those emails are only good for about 24 hours. So if you've created a new user on Friday and they don't get to it until Monday, then what they'll need to do is simply use the forgot password link on the login page. They'll be able to enter their account and receive that. If you ever find that you're not receiving the forgot password email after you've entered your email into the forgot password field, you'll want to contact support. It may mean that your account has been deactivated due to inactivity, and we'll need to reactivate that for you. Some more little tips. When you go to enter your section data under the organizations link, if you don't see the organization that you're looking for, you need to add yourself as a user to that organization over in the grantee section, and you'll see that tip here and a link back to that section up above for those instructions. Here as well, we can take a few moments to talk about the definitions of things, like, for example, the definition of a section, which is a discrete group of participants, one or more, that meet for one or more times to complete the program that you are implementing. There's some rules for aggregating sessions as well that are called out here in this tip. So if you do are implementing a program at a size where you do need to aggregate some of your data, you'll find some of those instructions in this tip on the side here. Again, we have our definitions of terms here in the user guide as well. So if you ever have a particular question and it's not answered for you clearly on the website or in other documentation, you may find it here, a more specific definition of an exact thing. All right, I do see that I have another question. So let's see, this is about section level data. They used the spring to implement a pilot session of TOP or TOP at a local school. We will be implementing a full cycle of the evidence-based practice beginning in September to follow the school year. We did not complete a full cycle of the evidence-based practice, and we're not expecting to. I was given direction to report on REACH, but we wouldn't be tracking dosage since we didn't implement a full cycle. On REACH without completing other sections, or where we report that we reached these youth through programming. Let's take a look. There are certain required fields, and other fields are not required. So let's take a moment to go see. We'll take a look at the section data maybe we looked at earlier. Example here, and we'll take a look at dosage. So if I am correct, I do believe that we should be able to. I apologize for the scrolling. Let's see, we'll leave these blank. Enter some data here. And this, we'll hit save. And we were able to save our data. So while not ideal, the dosage items are not strictly required in order to complete your data submission. So provide all the data that you can. Perhaps mark the section in some way or title it so we know what the deal is, that it wasn't completed or part way. It might be something you would like to discuss with your project officer to see if they want you to report that section into the system here or in some other way. But it does appear that you are able to do that even if you haven't collected the full set. Specifically under fidelity and quality, it sounds like here's your opportunity to say how many sessions or lessons were planned if for the full implementation of the program, and then you can say how many of those were completed, so that we can get a sense of the level of completion for this quote, not full cycle of the evidence-based practice program. All right, so we have a little over 10 minutes left in our office hours here. So we'll continue to hang out and see if there are any questions that you may have about the data collection or about your programs while we have everyone here who can answer your questions. Once again, I'm Zach with the OAHPMData.net support team. And of course, we have here with me Imogen and Kelly, who are being very helpful in the background, making sure that everything is running smoothly and helping us know when we have questions to be answered. If you do have any other questions or any final questions, please feel free to type them into the chat. And thank you everyone who's left for hanging out with us this long. Thank you for hanging out through the whole thing. I think since it's just a few of us here, we can go ahead and call it at this time, unless we feel like someone might begin to appear. Have a great day, everyone.